Hey, Larry.
Well, as you can probably hear, I'm not Larry. This is Scott and Shane with Prepper Talk Radio, hogging the airwaves today. We're excited to be here. Larry is actually out learning. He's growing. He's sharpening his spear, so to speak. And we're here filling in. So thank you for sticking with us this next hour. We've got a pretty awesome guest, one of our really good friends. And when it comes to preparedness, when it comes to thinking outside of the box, guy's a genius. So Jeff is here from Readyman and RATS Tourniquets. How you doing, big guy?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Always a good time.
You're almost a fixture here because we bring you in so much because we just enjoy this so much. But tell us what you've been up to. You know, we've heard it, but our listeners need to know.
The Readyman subscription side, so ReadymanTV.com. We're building out the subscription side. We're up to about 370 tutorial videos in the subscription area for our members. And then we've got, a few hundred more in the can that we're continuing to upload. So we're expanding that.
It's a community of ready-minded people.
It's a community of ready-minded people that essentially it's tutorial videos on everything you need to know in case of emergency, or everything you need to know just to continue to grow your family or your community with skills. So it's everything from, firearms to gardening to beekeeping to hunting, everything that you can imagine, where we've got about 19 different video content contributors that are helping us out with, some big names like Jeremy Horn, the UFC fighters, building, and Kyle Lamb with firearms and stuff like that. So it's really exciting. We're just limited by how fast we can upload the tutorial videos.
It takes a while. I know that. And so really the purpose of this Readyman of your Readyman TV site is, I would always go to YouTube, right, to try and find good content to learn things. But I'm always questioning, okay, what can I really trust? And that's, I think, where Readyman really comes in, is these guys. Jeff was a Green Beret for 28 years? 28 and a half.
28 and a half.
28 and a half. Don't forget the half year.
The 6 months counts, believe
me.
Absolutely. Are you kidding
Especially
me?
when you're in Afghanistan for those 6 months, right?
Well, I think the unique thing about what Readyman does, and this is, I think, why we've gravitated so well to become great friends, is because Readyman teaches the art of self-reliance in a way that helps people, number one, really grasp it, because it's from people who do it. All of your content contributors, the 19-plus people that are making this happen, are all experts in their area, and so they're teaching what they live.
All subject matter experts, and that's the difference between us and some of the other sites that are out there, I guess, is, can you find this information on YouTube or something? Yeah, certainly. I'm not going to stand here and tell you can't find it. However, you've got to swim through an ocean of other questionable content before you get to those nuggets of truth, whereas all of our experts are vetted. They're all credible subject matter experts in the stuff that they're talking about.
Well, it's kind of like a little university for the ready-minded.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great way of looking at it. I like that. Maybe we'll make that. That'll be our next T-shirt.
Make it a T-shirt. As long as I get a T-shirt, I'm happy with this. Yeah, it's university for the ready-minded. We're radio for the ready-minded, but you guys give a simple video classroom solution so that we're not hunting through all the other stuff out there until we find the right nugget of truth that we're really looking for.
And so if you want to learn more about these guys, before you subscribe, go to Readyman on Facebook.
Yep.
Always posting videos there, and you can get a taste of what they're doing.
We do live feeds once a week on the open Facebook page. We do live feeds. It's an hour-long show where we talk about different subjects. We do everything from disarming an attacker to, nutrition was last week because, one of the foundations of preparedness obviously is exercise, and the foundation of exercise is good nutrition. And then on Mondays we do another live show that's an hour in the subscriber group, in the Ready Men closed group on Facebook. And it's actually a very welcoming community. People ask questions, and we don't have any trolls. We don't have anybody that gets on there and ridicules or belittles people. So it's actually it's really pretty cool.
And another thing I really like about Readyman is that most of these guys, you're veterans, correct? I mean, majority of you guys are
veterans. Not all
Yeah.
of us, but the majority of us are veterans, yeah.
And it's kind of been my experience that some of these guys think they're really all that. They think that, you're a civilian and I'm a veteran, I'm better than you, right? That is not the case at all here on Readyman or these guys. I love hanging out with these guys. They're down to earth and they're there to help.
Some of our main content contributors, like Jeremy Horn, the really famous from the UFC days, not a veteran. Fantastic, great American, not a veteran. Josh Tyler does Survival Fit, not a veteran, great American. Jason Ross, one of the founders of Readyman, big hunter, not a veteran. And so we're really welcoming and sharing ideas and bringing that in and trying to push out and help people as much as possible.
Well, I think the unique thing you pointed out that there's no trolls. Now, I spend a lot of time in a lot of these different websites, YouTube channels, Facebook groups, and there's a lot of troll crap going on. And the thing that I hate about it is you're not building anybody up when you do that.
No.
Right? But it's happening, and a lot of you listeners ask me all the time, where should I go to learn these types of things where I'm not going to get beat up for asking a simple question of how what do I do with rabbits? What do I do with their poo when we're done with it? How do I grow a garden? What to them seems like the life-ending question of how do I figure this out? A lot of other people will be rude about it on typical social media sites. This doesn't happen in Readyman and Readyman TV, and it's very welcoming. It's very down to earth, and the responses that I get every time I ask questions in there, it's here's what we recommend, and here's how you do it, and here's kind of where you can learn more.
Yeah, the Readyman, our forum that's for subscribers, the forum is actually exceptionally welcoming. We've got some fantastic, a whole nother group of subject matter experts that chip in on the forum, and people come in and ask questions. And even in the Facebook pages, we just recently had somebody ask us, hey, what kind of handgun should I buy? How do I fit it to my hand? Normally, there would be a cascade of trolls coming in and saying, blah, 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 blah. Well, actually, there was about a dozen different very good answers that people came in and said, hey, here's some considerations you want to think about. It needs to fit this way or that way. Any reputable gun store, you can go there, and they'll let you rent a gun and talk to you and stuff. So it was one of those moments where me reading the comments, I was like, okay, we're doing a great job here. It's a very welcoming committee because you nailed it, Scott. If we're tearing people down, the reality is we're hurting everybody, including ourselves, by doing that.
And on these live feeds, you can also ask questions live, and you answer them live as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we let people write in through Facebook, and they can ask their questions, and then on the Readyman closed group, we actually take phone calls just like a regular show.
Sweet.
And people can call in and ask us, or they can write in and ask us those questions as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think it's always more fun to learn with someone who's eager to teach. And you guys are all so eager to teach and share what you've learned and share your life experiences that it makes learning more exciting because we get to hear the fun stories. We get to hear the challenges that you've actually endured to prove a principle.
And I think to that point, for us in our life experience, it makes them more valuable if we can share them, right?
Well, and I think too, if we're still learning. It's like the smarter you get on stuff, the more you realize you don't know anything. You know what I mean? And so, and for us, that's one of the reasons why I like teaching so much is because, and I really like teaching smart, engaged people because they ask the questions that challenge you, that really make you think, wow, I never thought of it that way. And then now all of a sudden I've got to go back and hit the books and kind of figure out what, the answer to that question. We try very, very hard. We're very diligent about if we don't know the answer to the question, we're not going to try and pull something out of our back pocket and tell you. We say, no, if we don't know the answer, then we'll go out and we'll find it because we want to know too. We're on the same journey of learning.
And I think that's what you did most of your career as a Green Beret is in instruction and teaching.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'd go into foreign countries and there would recruit and gather, local indigenous forces, either ones that were existing or we'd recruit them ourselves. And then we'd essentially, that was the whole point of that was to be a force multiplier. So in Afghanistan, then every Afghani that we could train that was helping further the U.S. interests, we were replacing 4 to 5 American boys or girls that didn't have to be there, because the support structure, it's not just the infantryman standing on the corner, but it's this huge, big, long support train that goes behind them. Somebody's got to pay them, and somebody's got to feed them, and somebody's got to clothe them, and then somebody's got to take care of their, their injuries, or everything up to, like, they just get a cavity when they come in, and that's got to be taken care of. Where if we can use local forces, then it's this huge force multiplier, because there'd be 2 or 3 of us with 200 or 300 Afghanis, and so.
Well, I think that's the key is force multiplier, and I think that's what we look forward to in preparedness, right? Everyone's looking for a group of one kind or another to be part of for preparedness, because we always stand a much better chance of survival if we do it in a group. And so with Readyman and with that mindset of a force multiplier, recruiting the right people to help is the key. And I love that it's a very supportive group, a very open group. You're not going to get bashed on what you know or what you don't know. And the videos are actually great content. I mean, one of the videos you guys did a while ago was Rory getting lost in the wilderness and showcasing what he was doing wrong.
Yeah.
That was a while ago, but that was awesome.
We're screwing this up, but we're going to capture this so we could, teach you guys, don't do this.
Yeah. And it's oftentimes we get into a situation and we mess up because we haven't practiced it or we haven't experienced it. But if we can learn from somebody else's experience, it's going to always benefit us in the long run.
Sure, and all this stuff is perishable, so we want to stay up on it. We want to keep chugging along so that we can stay up to our skills. And a great way of doing that is, passing on the knowledge to our kids, because now all of a sudden we're in that teaching role, and then our kids, anybody's got kids out there, they'll throw zingers at you, and you're like, where did you come up with that? And so now all of a sudden you're going back through the Boy Scout merit badge book, and it's like, well, let me tell you the answer to that just a minute, and you're shuffling through the pages real fast.
After you realize what you don't know, what you need to brush up on.
Exactly.
Well, and it's funny because you guys both have kids.
Yep.
You got how many kids now?
2.
2 boys, right?
Yeah, 2 boys.
And you've got
5.
20,000. He's got 4 girls and 1 boy.
Yep.
And I've got my first one on the way. She's actually any day now.
Yeah,
wow.
any day now.
So it's baby PrepperCon. She's probably going to be born during PrepperCon, which freaks me out. But I'm excited because I'll get to relearn a lot of things that I've kind of taken for granted in life as I help teach her. And that gets me excited about relearning and re-educating and honing my skills. But that's the beauty of being a parent is helping them learn. But I'm scared to death of some of the questions she's going to ask. That I'll be like, what the heck? What? Where did you get this?
Kids nowadays are very bright.
Oh, very bright, yeah. So, and that's actually one of the reasons we're getting ready to team up with the Boy Scouts with some stuff on Readyman. It's actually very exciting because I know it's going to push our teaching to the limit. So
that's cool. It's
going to be a fantastic challenge.
It is hard to teach youth, isn't it?
Well, kids today, they've got Google at their fingertips, and so they'll start sharpshooting you and throwing you some zingers, and so you better, and you've only got a microsecond to make sure you win their respect and their attention.
Well, we'll keep going on this topic as soon as we get back from the break. We got to hit these commercials, take care of our sponsors, and hey, stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
The all-new K-Talk Media. Online at ktalkmedia.com. Okay. You are listening to Freedom's Voice Radio with your host, Larry Fries.
Welcome back to the Larry Free Show, hijacked by Prepper Talk Radio. We've got Scott in the house, that's me, Shane in the house, and Jeff from Readyman and RATS Tourniquets.
Yep.
Thanks so much for being with us. If
Thanks
you've been
for having me.
Tuning in this whole this segment, this last 24 minutes, we've been talking about kind of the education side of things and the group side of things. We kind of wanted to throw in a theme for the day into preparedness, the misinformation behind a 72-hour kit. I started my preparedness when I was about 13, and I was more into the wilderness survival aspect. Bushcraft is what a lot of people call it now, but wilderness living skills. Boy Scouts was key for me. And so getting into prepping, I find that a lot of the preppers focus on the 72-hour kit mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I got a bag. I went down to the Walmart and picked up a bag, and it's got all the stuff I need in it. We're good.
And it's commercialism that's really driving that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you talk to your weathered, full weathered prepper, none of us have that type of bag, and there's a reason why, and that is the reason why is that bag will kill you.
So let's paint the picture a little bit here with the 72-hour kit. I think what most people picture in a 72-hour kit is something you jump online, you type in 72-hour kit, you see this red backpack, and it's $85, and you got some drinking water in there, you got some food bars or something, you got some emergency blankets, you got a little tube tent, you got an emergency whistle, those types of things.
Yeah.
And it's $85, and when you order this thing, you get it in your hands. It doesn't weigh much.
Nope.
It's okay. First of all, the bag I carry, the bag alone is a $200 bag, right? So how can an $85 kit with everything in it save your life?
Poorly.
Exactly.
It's kind of like motorcycle riding. If you have a $50 head, put it in a $50 helmet.
That's a really good analogy.
That's true.
So if you have a $50 value in your life, get a $50 kit. My kit, minimum value on my kit right now, I've probably got about $700 worth of gear in there.
Okay.
And that doesn't include my sidearm because that's part of my everyday carry, right? So let's make that distinguishment first. There's your everyday carry items that you want to have with you all the time or near you all the time. And then there's kind of your bug-out bag or your get-home bag or your inch bag.
Never
there's
coming
so
home.
many, there's so many different bags or names that people use.
I think it all goes back to planning. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? We actually on Readyman, we went through and we tested a bunch of stuff and we looked at the whole concept of bugging out. And so if you're going to bug out, what are you going to do? And we actually went the ultra light thing. We've done a couple of hours worth of video taping on this where we talk about it, because if you're bugging out, the idea is you only want to stay in an exposed area for so long, and the lighter you are, the faster you are, the more you limit your time that you're exposed to the dangers, whether those dangers are Mother Nature, or whether those dangers are violence from some other individuals, or whether those are, that's probably the top two right there. Yeah. And so now you've got to be able to move fast, but you've got to have everything in there that you need to survive. And as we add other human beings, wife, kids, to the equation, we actually very much complicate the thing. And what we found through our testing is we went through a series of bug out scenarios where we were moving about 30 miles to a bug out location. And so with that, we found our biggest limiting factor is the same thing that we've known in the military is your feet. So as soon as your feet get chewed up, so if you're not getting your butt off the couch and exercising, then you're not going to make it. So you better figure out how you're going to barricade
or
in
have the
place.
right shoes, right boots.
And if your feet get torn up because you've never worn those really super, high-speed boots that you bought, and they get torn up, guess what? Now you've lost your mobility. And so we built those things into our kit so that we could maintain our mobility, so that we could get to the location that has the supplies that we're at. Okay. Because this idea of, hey, I'm going to take off and go live in the mountains, I think is a naive fantasy that people have, because the game is, everybody else is thinking that, and any game you're going to run into is pretty much going to be gone pretty quick.
Yeah, I think 72-hour kits are kind of loosely based around the survival rules of 3, right? 3 days without water, 3 hours without shelter, and 3 weeks without food. So in a 72-hour kit, food is the least important thing you're going to have at that point.
Yeah.
What's more important, like you're saying, is safety. That's a big part of it, and that's really not accounted for at all in a traditional 72-hour kit. And so I think that's where a lot of misnomers.
And you've got to be able to, and that's where you've got to kind of define what is the, and we did this in the Plan to Survive, with the Readyman Secure Network, where you go through there and do a self-assessment based off of what is the most likely, and when we talk about, close quarter battle, we say, what is the probability of threat? So we throw out the alien apocalypse and all of that, because that's a, probably not a very high probability of threat there. But here in Utah, probability of threat, mudslide, probability of threat,
Fire.
earthquake. Fire, maybe, but we could look at that. We could consider that tornado. We actually had a tornado, but we call that low. Yeah. So the two biggies, based off of where I live, is probably mudslide, and then everybody's worried about an earthquake. So now we take that into consideration. What do we need to do in our community? And look at this holistically. If there's no water because the water lines have been broken, and there's no gas because the gas lines have been broken, and there's no electricity, now when we start building out and we say, okay, what have we got to do? Because if you look at that by nature of those disasters, you're talking way longer than 72 hours that you're going to have to subsist. And are you going to be an asset or a liability with everybody else in your community as well?
And I think that's where I like to call it, we build in these different layers.
Yes.
It's easy to visualize the different layers. Whereas, okay, maybe call your 72-hour kit your first. Most people who are preppers who want to be prepared to have their food storage, and they have their 72-hour kits. Those are different layers of preparedness. But like Scott was also saying, is EDC, for me, that's my very first layer, right? What you have on your person every day, without exception.
Yep. And then your vehicle EDC.
Exactly. There's the next layer. Exactly.
See, I look at it all the same way. I mean, what I've got on me, first and foremost, that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. It's the daily, here's what I need to get through the scenarios that I could face. Mm-hmm. And then what's in my car is the oh craps, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have a bug out bag. I don't have a 72-hour kit. I have a 96-hour get-home bag. Mm-hmm. But it's got enough fuel, food, warmth, and then all the tools I need to get myself home in 3 to 4 days with one other person.
Yeah, just like Jeff was saying, is figure out what your greatest threats are and plan accordingly. So for me, my plan is, okay, my everyday kit, my EDC, what I have on me is to get me back to my vehicle, and that vehicle gets me back to my home base. Right?
Yes.
Where I have more layers.
And if the vehicle can't get you back to the home base, you can scavenge what you have in the vehicle to move on foot or to find an alternate means of transportation. And I think that's where a lot of people forget is that doesn't have to be your sole way of getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. If the roads are impassable, you can't take your vehicle anyways.
And that's where, if you look at that, then you've got the different layers. Now, obviously, you're not going to be carrying around a bike or something, or maybe you are, but you look at your vehicle, and that's when with our testing we said, okay, first layer is our vehicle, because if I can drive, I'm not walking.
Yeah,
and then once I can't drive anymore because there's gridlock or because there's the bridge is out or something, then I've got a bicycle that I can hoof around and put on my back.
And because you have a vehicle, you can go heavy. You can carry
all
everything. Kinds of stuff in there.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to. I see so many empty trunks out there. Why don't you have a little extra water or a blanket or just even the most basic, some flares, something to inflate a flat tire.
One of the agents I work with, one of the lending lending loan officers, he actually has in his trunk a fold-up
bicycle. Yep.
And I'm like, that's actually pretty brilliant.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah.
He's got a fold-up bike. He's got his water purification solutions and stuff like that. I mean, I've got small filters in my car. But he had this big thing. I'm like, what are you going to do with a giant Berkey? Are you going to sit there long enough to filter everything? And then I'm like, who needs 4 or 5 gallons of water? But he had all that. And I'm like, why do you have that? And he goes, well, I figure wherever I go, someone's going to need this. And so I'll leave my car in this with the people that are there, and then I'll ride my bike home. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
There was a plan for it. But he had small filters in his bags. But he wouldn't carry his bags on his back if he had his bike. He had a little rack on the back of his bike that everything's strapped onto. So
you can carry, it's actually surprising, you can carry a tremendous amount of weight on a bicycle.
Even if you just walk it. I mean, you can load it up and you can walk the bike.
You look at the Vietnam War on the Ho Chi Minh Trail, all of those supplies, I shouldn't say all, a great amount of those supplies were moved by bicycle. Yep, through the jungle. So talking hundreds of pounds.
Watching videos from Vietnam and videos from India where kids on a scooter and there's 40 people hanging off the kid. It doesn't take much. And bicycles, it's not much different. I mean, you'd see a father and a mother riding a bicycle, 2 kids in the back basket and 1 kid in the front basket, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it, and a bicycle takes all the stress off your body so that you're not having to pack it. And that makes you able to go a lot longer, a lot farther, depending on your health and your fitness. And that goes back to that first level of your fitness has to come first. Fitness, nutrition, so that you can make those journeys.
Yep. So if you're living off of soda pop and Cheetos,
Let me just put this over here out of view.
He's got
might
his
want
drink there.
to rethink your baseline plan.
He needed some
there a
caffeine
little bit.
it's the end of the day. We needed to
Oh
boost
man,
here.
yeah. Today it's funny because with the baby coming, for those of you who haven't heard, my wife's expecting any day now to have a new addition to the family, and so my sleep's hampered. Plus, we've got PrepperCon coming up in 2 weeks, which means 18-hour days. Plus, we're filling into the radio station, so I'm like, by the time I get here, I'm like, please
Dragging.
nap time, and I'm like, I need some caffeine and sugar.
Yeah.
Spike it for a little bit and get going. But fitness is huge, and I honestly, I'm out of shape. I'm in probably not the worst shape of my life, but not far off. I'm like maybe within 10% of the worst shape of my life, but I'm moving more.
And I think that's also where we can take into account in planning for your layers. And you make those adjustments. Kind of like I was saying, is my vehicle is kind of, I consider it my third layer. My first layer is my EDC. My second layer is I have a little kind of business bag. I have some other additional things in that I don't carry on my person. And then third layer, and all of that is to get me back to my vehicle. And then, like I say, if my vehicle is unable to get me home, I can scav and I can take whatever I need out of my vehicle and then trek toward my home base, because that's what my goal is. So my goal is not to bug out 30 miles or 200 miles to a bug out location. That's just impractical for our family. It's not in our plans whatsoever right now.
Well, I think a lot of people say I'm going to bug out, and I'm like, and I go, okay, so let's think forward here a little bit. You're going to bug out to where? And they go, well, I'm going to go into the mountains, and I'm like, well, that's not really much of a plan.
And where are you going to go?
Where in the mountain? Well, I'm gonna. So if you think about it, you've got three different options if you're bugging out. The first option is you've got your bug out location, which is your cache, whether that's another piece of property you own or something. Part number two is, or maybe it's 1A, is you've got friends and family that are outside of the area that is having problems. They weren't affected by the earthquake or the landslide or the flooding or whatever that is. And then number three is whatever that government that government entity is that's there, church, it's a rallying place, or your local fire station or something like that. And then, but if you need to know that in advance, just saying I'm going to grab my stuff and run out the front door isn't that's not any kind of a plan. And then once you have that, hey, I know if I'm going to go to the fire department is plan A, and then the fire department that's on the other side of the valley that probably isn't going to get hit by the earthquake as bad as this side of the valley, I know that's actually 10 miles. So I need X, Y, and Z to get me there with my family and friends.
And I think part of that layer that I'm planning for is not necessarily to bug out to a fire station, but to harden my own house so that it can withstand earthquakes, or we have other provisions there that we can stay on our own property.
Certainly.
But then also in the bug out application, my long-term goals are to, I'd like to eventually have a place to bug out to, but something that I've established over even decades.
Well, and that's more of a permanency bug out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're looking to relocate before something happens, but in the case of something does happen, hopefully you've acquired some land somewhere that you can rebuild if this is no longer salvageable. But the reality for most is that's not possible. It's not feasible. I've heard many, many people tell me, oh, my husband's a hunter. We're just going to go fend for ourselves. I'm like, do you know how fast all the deer are going to be gone? Do you know how fast all the big game's going to be gone? And do you know how fast you're going to be shooting your neighbor because he wasn't wearing orange and he was in the woods doing the same stupid thing you're doing? We've got a lot of novice hunters in Utah, or theoretical hunters that think, hey, I can go do this, that haven't done it. I know for me that's not an option. But I've got traps and snares and all this other stuff that I can catch stuff in my local environment because I know what's out there. Would I want to eat it? Nah, not so much, but it's doable.
What's interesting is like one of the least expensive, longest lasting things that you can purchase for emergency preparedness is wheat. You can buy hundreds of pounds of wheat, and wheat is surprisingly calorically dense. I mean, wheat has got a ton of calories in it per cup, and so you can subsist for a long time off of a little bit of wheat. Now you got to grind it up and all that stuff, but
crack it. I mean, you can grind it, you can soak it, You can.
There's a lot of different options. So now, when you start talking about, hey, obviously storage space, you got to contend with that a little bit. But there's some really great options. We actually live in a day and age now that I think more people are thinking about emergency preparedness than probably just about ever. Maybe that, and there's a lot of really interesting, creative options that are out there that won't break the bank.
No, absolutely right. And one thing I guess I wanted to say about that is we've seen here with the election, and I'm trying not to get too political here, election of Trump, that people are kind of stepping away from prepping a little bit, thinking that things are getting better.
Yeah, a lot of people have this myth popping in their mind that, everything's hunky-dory. Yeah. And we'll jump more into that when we get back and kind of dispel that because it's a lifelong thing. You should always be prepared. You should always be ready and thinking about how to be more ready for more scenarios. So
everyday preparedness.
You're listening to K-Talk Radio. This is Prepper Talk Radio, filling in for the Larry Free Show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Broadcasting live from the top of the Rocky Mountains, K-Talk Media. Live, local, two-way, AM 630.
Welcome back to the Larry Free Show. We're Prepper Talk Radio here. Jeff Kirkham from Readyman in the house, and we've actually got a caller who was listening in on our conversation about wheat. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just grinding some wheat as you said that. And I'm using the coffee bean grinder.
Okay.
Fantastic. That's a simple use for a tool that you wouldn't normally think would grind wheat. But I mean, coffee's hard, wheat's hard.
And is that pretty effective for you? Is that work real well? Is the coffee or grinder holding up?
Oh yeah, well yeah, I got it. Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, you can feel it getting a little warm. But what I'm doing is I'm making a chick starter feed. I got about 60 meat chickens, and I'm making my own chick starter concoction of black bean, rolled oats, wheat, barley, and some corn.
So you're not trying to get it really fine. You're just trying to break it up to where it's a little more edible.
No, you got to get it fine. You want it fine on the chick starters because they don't have gizzards yet.
Okay.
And you really want to get it.
Okay. Hey, that is really cool. We're going to have to. Man, you just gave me a great idea for a Readyman video. Thanks.
Hey, thanks so much for your call.
With you. It's all science, and the chicks I'm noticing they're putting on with the feed I'm giving them. They're putting on the weight and getting bigger, and after they eat, they gorge themselves and they just lay down and they just breathe real heavy because they're just trying to digest all that protein.
So basically, they're living the life. They're dumb, fat, and happy.
Dumb, fat, and happy. But yeah, the coffee bean grinder, it's amazing. It grinds up quite a bit pretty quick.
Is that a burr or is that a blade grinder?
Blade.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to do a Readyman video on that. I think you probably just answered a question for a lot of people.
Yeah, because these guys are tied in with Black Rifle Coffee as well. So
we got lots of coffee grinders around the place.
There, yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for your call. We appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for the show, guys.
Oh,
you're welcome.
Appreciate it. So, where do we go from here? We were talking about layers from the 72-hour kit, where we are not big fans of the traditional, what everyone might think of a 72-hour kit.
Here's why. It's because of all the little trinkets that are designed for, come save me.
And that's what
they're
word.
doing.
Trinket is
They're
definitely
trinkets
the right
that yell,
word.
come save me.
Yeah.
And our whole focus is to help you create the skills, create the mindset that saves you. All of your preps are crap compared to what you know and what you can do. Your skill set and your ability is much better than any prep you have.
Your knowledge doesn't weigh anything. That
right.
Stuff between the ears, I mean, it doesn't weigh anything, and it's the one thing you can't lose it, and it can't be taken away from you.
And some of the most important things don't weigh that much either. Like a good pocket knife, man. It's just have one with you all the time. It's a wonderful tool in so many different ways. So as for layers, the 72-hour kit, the idea is, okay, there's an emergency, grab it and go, right? That's all you need. Well, okay if you have the other layers already in place, right? Mm-hmm. You have your vehicle, you have your home base, maybe your bug out location, whatever, these different layers you're already practicing that every single day. You've already got them set up. So if there is one bag and there's an emergency that you need to grab, okay, I can live with that. But only if your other layers are, because otherwise your bag's going to have to be so heavy you can't carry it anywhere, right?
Right. We actually, when we were going back to the bug out scenario stuff, like when we had first started out, like Jason was the one that was the herding cats on that one where we're going through and we were testing this stuff. He actually did a complete 180 on what, and Jason is dyed-in-the-wool, preparedness guy, and he did a 180 off of what he had originally thought you would need for a bug out or for a lightweight kit to get you somewhere, because he had originally was carrying a whole bunch of stuff, and then when we started, you actually get out and start testing it. It was like, wow.
I don't need this. I don't need that.
I don't need this. I don't need that. And if I use this, it's going to slow me down.
Yeah. And that's kind of the survivalist mentality, is like our good friend Dan, Live Life Survival. He has come to the point where, all I need is really a razor knife and a fishing kit and very minor stuff, because he has the knowledge and the skills and he's comfortable at that level that there's very little that I need,
Yeah.
And so the bag doesn't need to be that big. I don't have a large bag. It's kind of day pack size, but it has really the essential things that are not on me.
And it's, and it's about knowledge. So, and what's cool is I fully and 100% believe that one of the most addictive things to human beings is learning. And so I just discovered this new and cool thing. I'll let the cat out of the bag. I was making arrowheads out of broken beer bottles.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so, and what's cool is I discovered a way of doing it based off of some other doing something else.
Well, the guys get a little rowdy around the shop there.
Guys get a little, but as I was knocking out a couple of arrowheads out of a glass bottle, and I was doing it in about 5 minutes, versus the hours and hours. So that'll be an upcoming video or share
That's
with
brilliant.
you guys.
That comes into play of the urban survivor, right? In most urban environments, you're going to find glass bottles, you're going to find cans, you're going to find all these things you can repurpose, but it doesn't do you any good unless you learn how to do these things.
Got to know how to do it.
And that's what it all comes back to, is always be learning. I think that's really, if you really want to look at it, that's your first layer. Right?
Okay, yeah. Your
The
brain,
the capacity to learn,
yeah.
right? Then we get to the second layer of what's with you, what's on you, right? But it's always continually learning. My focus right now is I'm trying to learn more about food prep, more about clean eating, more about growing my own food. And so I'm stoked about PrepperCon coming up in a couple of weeks, because I'm going to be at the aquaponics booth quite a few times, learning about their systems, learning about how they do things, because that's one of my goals, is to put that into play in my home.
And I'll tell you what, for folks out there that are, they're not really sure of where to start, obviously you can start on Readyman, but you don't have to trust me. But, I mean, like, what I found was one of the very best resources that's available is Boy Scout Merit Badge books.
Oh, yeah.
They are the essential skills
Especially
to so many things.
If you can find the old ones.
Especially the old ones, but even the new ones, because they've got some new merit badges that are out it's fantastic content, and it's broken down in a very, life is fast moving, and we've got a million different, and it breaks it down to the, the nuts and the bolts, so that you can learn these new skills. When I was still deploying, going overseas, I would take stacks of merit badge books with me, and one time I was reading one. It happened to be the Pioneering Merit Badge, and which is full of just essential stuff. And so I was reading it, and one of my compadres came along, and he's like, "What are you reading?" Boy Scout Man. And this guy was, he's a former Delta Force guy, and I was like, "Yeah, Boy Scout Merit Badge. It's great cliff notes on life." And I handed it to him, and he started thumbing through it, and he's like, "What? Well, there's a lot of really good information there." I was like, "Yeah, I know. Give me my book back." And so
give me my book back, jerk. That's awesome. It's so easy to forget the nuggets of truth in these what seem to be simple locations.
But it's just priceless stuff in there.
I just taught the Emergency Preparedness Merit Badge to the Scouts, and it's funny how little that book's changed in the 20-plus years that I've been out of scouting. It's very much the same, whereas the Scout Handbook, totally different. If you can get your hands on the Merit Badge books and then an old Scout Handbook from like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I think they get better the older they are.
There's some
handbook,
great stuff in there.
But the Merit Badge books, they never expire. It's one of those products that you can get, and you can always be learning from it and always resource back to it to get better education and a better understanding of how to do things.
Yeah. Here's something I wanted to touch on real quick in our last few minutes here is, talk about 72-hour kits for kids, right? Again, I don't want to call it 72-hour kit, but how do we prep for our kids? What I've seen a lot in the 72-hour kit mindset is, okay, let's put some kids' clothes in there. Let's put some of the snacks in there for kids and some games and stuff like that. And then 20 years later, you find that bag. Oh, this doesn't fit the kids anymore, and it sits around, does nothing. What's a better way to do that? I mean, I've got my ideas to how to have your kids ready in 5 minutes or whatever, where you got to get out of the house.
You know what? I can tell you right off the top of my head what I think is the number one way to prepare for that.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time and go camping, and even if it's camping in your car, take the time and go camping with your kids, because because essentially camping is just a dry rehearsal.
Yep.
You're either camping in the woods or you're camping at the fire station, because that's where everybody, or the church or wherever it is that you end up. And so by that, you'll now thin slice it down to where it's like, I know I need that, I need that, I need that, I need that. And then camping over a weekend gives you 2-3 days, and you can see the sustainability and figure out, okay, this worked, that didn't work. But and plus you get that time that is oh so valuable with your family.
Well, and talk about situational awareness. Mm-hmm. If you want to really become aware of what's going on around you, take your little kids camping. Oh crap, you get aware quick of what's going on around you.
You better be aware.
Or you lose a kid.
Right? Exactly.
They're in the river, and all of a sudden you're like, is that little Timmy?
Johnny, where are you?
Where'd they go? But those activities, camping, I think, is one of the best examples. Those activities are what's going to help you really learn what you're doing, because you can read so much and absorb just enough until you actually do it. When you're practicing it, when you're implementing it, that's when it's going to be ingrained inside.
Got to do it. Got to get your butt off the couch, get active.
So what should be in a young kid's kit?
Well,
what do you think?
I think you hit it. Clothes, probably 1 or 2 changes of clothes. You need some snacks in there. And games. One of the things that we found in one of the Readyman challenges, we had a challenge with 2 separate teams. And one team was ultra serious as they were going through the competition, and psychologically they were actually having a hard time. The other team had brought a guitar and would sit at night and they would sing songs and share stories around the campfire, and that team, and they were the lesser experienced team, but because they didn't have this overbearing weight on their minds, they actually performed better because they had some way of letting off the steam, which you've got to make sure that so with kids, do you know what I mean? If your kids aren't occupied, think about what you're constantly chasing them down, whereas if you can give them a card game or something like that to keep them occupied,
especially your kids,
so that you can work, especially my kids who are on afterburners.
Well, I think the simplest things are crayons are great because they're multi-purpose, right? You can color with them. You can also use them as candles.
And they obviously don't need everything that us as parents should have in our packs.
Right. And a little kid really, most of the time, can't carry that much anyways. Yeah. So you don't want to overload that kid and endanger the kid.
So that's a good activity that we practice in our home. Okay, got 5 minutes, grab what you want to take with you. Put it in a pack and let's go.
And get rid of the electronics.
Yeah.
You don't need those. Yeah. It's a distraction. We're running out of time, so I want to remind everybody, check out Readyman.com. Follow them on the Facebook group, Readyman.
Readyman.
And Jeff is awesome. You also want to check out RATS Tourniquets. We didn't get into it at all, but it is the fastest application tourniquet I've ever played with. Thankfully, I haven't had to use it, but I've played with it and practiced with it. But they should be at PrepperCon with BattleBox.
Yep.
And come out next weekend. PrepperCon is Friday and Saturday of next week. Get your discount tickets and use the promo code KTALK. That's KTALK. Save an extra $2. Yep. Get your tickets. 70-plus class. It's going to be awesome.